Hi, my name's George and this is my implementation video for the Unity 3D game kit. This video is going to be focused on the ways I input sound into Unity, and there will be a separate video which will focus on the creative process for this project. Just a quick summary of some of the non-linear audio stuff that I've done before using Unity. I've done a couple of projects using Wise implementation, and more recently I have used FMOD to implement sound into the survival shooter game. I really enjoyed using FMOD for the shooter, so I've stuck with it for this project. I began by playing through the game a few times, which gave me a good idea of what sort of things I would need to implement sound for. I made a list to keep track of which sounds I had designed and which sounds I had implemented. I began my implementation with things that were in the level that needed to emit audio but that didn't need that audio to develop or evolve at all, like the fireflies. For these I used the FMOD event emitter component and set the audio to loop within FMOD Studio. Since event emitters are not limited to just playing a sound on startup, I also use them for one-off sounds such as the destructible boxes and the weapon being collected. I was able to trigger FMOD events during animations using animation events. By calling play sound, which I've defined in a C# script as an instruction to play whatever event is in the string section, I can trigger audio at any point within an animation. So for example, for the Chomper enemy's attack animation, we've got the Chomper pre-attack event, which is like a growl, and the Chomper attack event, which is the actual bite. Since you can't stop a one-shot once it begins, splitting up the events like this allows for the audio to discontinue if the animation gets interrupted. Anything character related that is not triggered through animation events is called directly from a C# script. An example of which can be seen here. If the Grenadier enemy dies, there is an instruction to play the death event as well as an impact event. To stop my audio becoming repetitive, some sound effects were designed with replaceable layers, such as the Chomper's spotted event, which has 3. Every time the Chomper spots the player, the multi-instruments will randomly select different sections from each layer, which will result in a new combination each time. I only did this for the more common sounds because doing it for everything would potentially involve hundreds of audio files, which would quickly bloat the size of the audio bank. Objects which emit an ambient sound up until the point they are interacted with were implemented by making use of the already existing Unity events. I used a sustain point to hold the playhead in place over a looping glow, and when the key off button is triggered, the playhead continues playing the opening sound. This script will play the crate event from when the player first loads in, and when the crate is opened, the Unity event will trigger the key off button. The layers are stored individually and referenced in the opening crate event, allowing me to have more control over crossfading at the beginning and end of each loop. To detect which surface the player character, Ellen, is walking on, I created a Raycast within a C# script which shoots directly into the space below her. If Ellen stands on objects tagged as terrain, the ray will output a material value of 1. If she switches to walking over an object tagged with stone, the material value will now output 2. Each time Ellen takes a step, this if statement will determine the current material value and fire off a one-shot of the correct FMOD event. Alternatively, I could have had one single event and used a parameter to dictate which audio file should play, but because one-shots will always output with the default value of a parameter, I wouldn't have been able to change materials as easily on the fly. For Ambience, I started by dividing the map up into 3 sections: the swamp, the cave and the arena. A Raycast, shooting straight forward from roughly the height of Ellen's head, will collide with invisible game objects placed at the entrance and exit of each area, outputting a value. That value is fed into this script, which controls the parameter within FMOD. Jumping over to FMOD, you can see that each ambience is made up of an audio bed and a scatter instrument. The scatter instrument is full of one-off sounds of wildlife and makes the soundscape feel more alive and dynamic. Every section is technically playing all at once, and the ambience perimeter uses automation to mute and crossfade between sections. In-game, this means that when Ellen enters a new area, the FMOD parameter crossfades the soundscapes to match her location. I use snapshots to change the mix for certain areas of the map to reflect what environment Ellen is in. If Ellen enters a cave, things get more echoey, and if she goes to a high up area, the wind becomes stronger. They're implemented using invisible game objects, set to begin a snapshot when Ellen enters the space they cover, and end it when she leaves. Using ADSR modulation, the changes to the mix are faded in and out to make it feel more natural. The UI sounds were the final thing which I added. Each section of the pause menu begins as a disabled game object, and then each part is enabled as the player clicks through them. Using event emitters, I was able to make it so that a sound plays each time the player clicks on a new part of the menu. When on the pause menu, there is a snapshot active which turns down the game volume. To allow players to customise the sound accurately, the volume returns to normal when on the audio settings page. Sound can be turned down using in-game sliders, which are linked to VCAs within FMOD. So that's the technical side of my redesign project. If you're interested in seeing a full playthrough, I have a video of that up on my channel, and I also have a video which will focus more on the creative side. Thank you for watching.